again, his transparency and show it to you, which we'll give to you. It was interesting that people were able to go do this, not just in Houston now, in other places. So we'll give you the whole model. Yes, ma'am.
And then did you go as a company and ask for these funds, or did you go as an individual?
We'll cover that in his. Perfect. That's a great point. Rick, you got all your raised hands. Yes, sir.
So for your systems and let's talk about your systems. What did you improve first? Did you improve the back end, or did you improve the recruiting sales potential?
This is a great question. Sales. By the way, my handwriting's awesome, but I can't read it, so don't worry about it. Which came first? Good. What else?
You talk about your, just on your daily prospecting with your teams, like some of the things that you require.
How about this? Top 3 prospecting programs, and then to your point, what's the standard for prospecting in his team? What's the standard? Good. Couple more. Yes, sir.
So are you concentrating more on, did you see a switch in order to scale? Did you focus more on lead gen, or have you focused away, because you talked about finding other verticals to the business? What is your main focus? Is it lead gen? Is it gen conversion? Like you talked about prospecting. Which one of those? Obviously, you're going to have a lead vertical. Which was the lead vertical to push all the other verticals up?
Lead lever. Good. I would say this, you should ask him about recruiting and retaining talent because he's really good at it.
Well, we just assumed it was off of good looks.
That's how Dad did it. Andrew's got to work a little harder than that. I get one shot in around it. Yes, sir.
I'd like to hear more how you brought in your sales manager, what that looked like, how you transitioned them into the team structure across the board.
I think, Drew, you're good with this. If we go through your whole structure, maybe where it was when you took over with Pops, and then what it's become when you went to 1800.
Yep.
600, 1800. Good question. Next. Is that it?
No, we got more.
Yeah, I'm always interested in the compensation plan based on the amount of work that they have. Do you have showing agents that strictly show? Do you have listing agents that just go on the appointment and then you take care of everything else? I'd like to hear about how you set up your team, your network, and compensation.
Yeah, that's a great question. Compensation is good. And I think we should talk about profit margin of the business, what it was like when it was 600, what it's like at 1,000, what it's like at 1,800, because as you were scaling, sometimes costs start up until you get scaled. So profitability and the process to that, you good with that?
Yeah.
Keep going.
One more. 2 more, go.
Marketing, do you see yourself putting out in different marketing, like different avenues of marketing to bring in that much?
Do you use social media? Do you use, like, I mean, to generate the number of transactions you do, in addition to cold calling, do you use social media? What parts of video does that play? Those kinds of things.
Yes, sir.
Projections. So you talk about being at 1,800, you talk about your dad being at 600. Is at some point you and your sister said, hey, I think we can move this ball to 1,800. That's triple. It's really hard for most businesses to go from even 100 to double. And you did that. You from 600 to 1,800. It was a true feat in business excellence. So I appreciate you being here today. But moving forward, we know that the market is like this today. How are you projecting for 6 to 12 months from now? Because that's the even better question, because what we do today is really gonna pay off in 6 to 12 months.
I did want to mention it took them 7 years to. Didn't happen overnight.
And Pops, we give you a lot of credit. Being at 600 is a great.
He goes, I did 600 without a CRM.
That's actually true.
I would love some insight into your post, client retention.
Ooh,
What
great
it looks
question.
like, how you get your referrals, you know, just how you're getting all these great numbers now, but how you're gonna retain them going forward.
Wow, this is a good room. Okay, got it. Drew, which one you wanna attack first? We'll save the investment piece to last. That's gonna have the most stuff to it, so.
Why don't we talk a little bit about where the business was and what the structure was and where I took it, which allowed us to do some of the growth. So you wanna?
Yeah. Quick background on how we got here in this room. I was an independent agent with a brokerage, and in the early 90s, I sort of found my niche, which was the builder world. A lot of relationships, a lot of friendships, first in the sales council world, and then that evolved into management. And I had some programs that worked really well for me, and I kind of became, in a lot of cases, the go-to in that world. Had a pretty small team. Really didn't even have a team until the mid-90s, and then it was pretty small. And the team I handed off to Andrew and Sarah in 2013. What do we have, like 4 agents and I don't know, 4 or 5 admin. I did have some business development people, which we can talk about during this time. But in 2000, through these programs, I had a really good friend of mine that was a sales manager at Pulte Homes in Houston, and kind of with his suggestion, created, I guess, 15 years ahead of the iBuyer, a home buyout program, and it kind of catapulted me from a big producer into, you know, one of the top.
I talked about this is important. Your home buy, you went to builders and you said,
I said, rather than me just, you know, list these homes when they have a home to sell, like everybody will do now. But at the time, I was doing that early, and then everybody was kind of, you know, copying it. And in 2000, I created a home buyout program, which I'm doing the same thing. I'm listing the home, and you know, with the idea of getting those people's homes sold so they can buy the new home, the Pulte or the David Weekley or whoever my client happened to be. It was a builder-centric program. It wasn't. I didn't do it in every situation. It was just builders. It was a builder partnership is really what I created, and it evolved from the 90s essentially. So anyway, this program that I started kind of took me to another level, and then I started to, you know, the word got out, I guess, and I started getting a lot of the builders. In many cases, I was exclusive, so I got all their business, all their listings, and it turned me from a regional. Houston's very spread out, so it's hard to get business outside of your little area. Like our area was Katy, West Houston area. This kind of turned me into an all over town builder, and Houston is a bunch of towns all over the place. You know, greater Houston area. There's Sugar Land and Clear Lake, and I got all that business. And because basically I was offering something that really nobody else was offering. And it was kind of you know, everybody knows about the iBuyers today, but this was kind of an iBuyer with, you know, the only hitch was I didn't want to really buy the house, and they do buy the house, right? That's their whole model. Mine was, I'll buy the house, there's a contract, it's legit, there's an outside appraiser, it's not, so it took out the trust factor of, you know, is he lowballing me? Because I actually went out and got an outside appraiser, but we had to try to sell the house. And if the home wasn't sold before the new home was ready, and I was expected to perform, and that's what happened. And and it went unbelievably well, and then in 2008, by that time I had some other teams that were copying it, and I was getting they were getting some of the business, I was getting a lot of it. And what happened then was, they all went and hit, and we kind of doubled down, and went in that this wasn't gonna be so bad. And, at that point, we became kind of the only team that anybody accepted in the city that actually did this program. So that was the team, that was what I handed off to them in 13, which I think was about $150 million a year, which they have, took them 8 years, but they did triple it. So
It was 7 years, now 8, it'll be 9, but.
we had a small team, they have a much bigger team. It's true, I did not have a CRM, I don't even know really what that means, but, so I won't be much help on most of these questions, but that's how we got to this.
So you
this
hand
point.
over this builder program, it's a ton of business, you guys have got all these great relationships, and you walk in and you know you don't have the tech and stuff to know where you want to go, so what did you do next?
Just one thing, Steve, one thing we did do very well is we marketed our program. I did, before anyone else really was doing it, I did get business development people, and all their job was to do was to call on builders and explain our program and get me in front of them. So that's one thing I did do right.
One question, Pops, before you pass the mic.
Yep.
So when you said it went really well, was that you were getting them sold before the builder was done completing their next property, or you were acquiring a lot of properties due to the program?
Great question. The program works only because you expect to get it sold, right?
Sure.
It's a lot, I kind of use the analogy of an insurance company, you know, they're there because they're gonna perform if the hurricane comes in and blows the roof off. But they also know that it's probably going to happen less than it is. So what I sort of did that was different is I had a legitimate contract in place, signed by the seller. Here's how it's gonna go, but we really expected it to sell prior to. There was an upside to us getting it sold for them. So there was a legitimate, a pretty good buyout number in place. I don't really have to get into the percentages, but it was a good number. It was one that would be, yeah, I can live with it. I would be happy it happened, but I really hope this sells because Jimmy's telling us there's gonna be a better number here at the full boat number. We typically would get it sold, but I always said too that the ones that we had to buy were, we made a big deal out of it. We showed that we did it. You know, look, we took this loss, we took it smiling, and we moved on for another day. So no, I didn't end up having to acquire a bunch. You may have heard of.
What percentage would it be, Jim?
About 90 to 95% we get
Yeah.
them sold before needing to buy it, so the
Did you
most.
hold on to those, or did you resell them?
Always flip them, and usually would take my hit, take the loss. Sometimes it was 5 figures, you know. But typically speaking, we got them sold, and then the ones that most often we would end up buying, we probably took a loss that was less than the commission that we were receiving on a deal we wouldn't have gotten had we not done the buyout program. Every once in a while, and again, these are the ones I think that create a lot of trust in that world, is that we were willing, and people knew that we were gonna do it. It wasn't a hoodwink. We were really legitimately offering a buyout program. We were going to perform if it came to that place. You know, we got caught in, there's stuff that happened over those 2 decades. Hurricane Ike comes to mind. The one in 17, what was that one? Harvey. Yeah, that, and we got caught into some situations and lost some money, and but again, the income that was created by having those programs was always far exceeded those hits that we would take. And I always